do the best. God damn these fucking Mexicans ruining my fucking show! Anyway.
He's got the leaf blower out now.
What the fuck?
I think they heard you in this. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Blue State Survivalist, Radio Free America. I am your host, Halsey English. Shogun will be joining us shortly. He's just dealing with a personal issue, and I have some time to talk anyway. So first, let me remind everybody, we're brought to you today by The Dollhouse, finest purveyor of waifu materials on the planet. If you're going to buy a doll, buy from the biggest, buy from the best, thedollhouse.com. Also, rocketheater.com, off-grid heating for your house, your hunting lodge, your cabin. If you're going to burn wood, scraps, or anything else, you can buy a heater from them. And if you mention my name, Halsey, you get $50 off your first order at rocketheater.com. I have a subscribe star for the show, and it gives you access to exclusive content, the Morning Constitutional a week early if you don't catch the live stream, and exclusive merch and hangouts with me. We have as little as, I think, $1 a month. So if you can, hit up the subscribe star. It helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And I also have a PayPal and a Streamlabs donation link. I can take Bitcoin. So if you want to donate to the show or ask a question, then just feel free to do that. Now, I also have to make a special appeal. As you'll see, the donation guide on the top says $1,000. My mom was diagnosed with COVID yesterday, which sucks. She's feeling really shitty, but at the same time, her lung function is fine. But now her house is a quarantine zone, and my workshop for school and for doing the repairs that I do is off limits to me because I share it with my father. So I have to put together a makeshift workshop to do my schoolwork. I need to raise $1,000 by the end of the week so that I'm able to keep up with what I'm doing and also to help out my parents if I can. So if you can see yourself to donate, I really do appreciate it. If not, there's no problem anyway. I'm trying to think of what is new in the world right now. There's so much going on. In Philadelphia, obviously, a guy got shot last night that was going after the cops with some knives. And BLM has been rioting there for the entire night. They ran over some cops with a car. They've been burning shit, looting, and, you know, the typical stuff they do when criminals get shot by cops. So, and now they're coming out and they're trying to say that, I'm not even really sure. I'm not even sure what they're trying to say. So I don't even know what they want. I really don't. But this brings us always to some simple questions, and we'll just answer them for the fun of it. Okay? As of right now, there are, I think, 3 million new gun owners in the States just from the last couple weeks. And with all of the rioting and looting and craziness that's going on, a lot of questions come up that most normally people don't give a shit about, but they still tend to come up. Why didn't they use a taser? Why didn't they shoot him in the leg? Why didn't they shoot a warning shot? Why did they use so many shots? Well, let's answer these questions one by one. So, hold on one second, please. So, why don't they shoot warning shots? First of all, nobody shoots warning shots, and you shouldn't shoot a warning shot because if you're going to put a bullet up into the air, you have to remember it's going to come down somewhere. So you don't risk... Hold on. So you don't risk somebody getting hit with a bullet blocks away because you're trying to warn somebody that's threatening your life. That's just, it's silly. It doesn't help anything. And it's incredibly dangerous. So no, you don't fire a warning shot. If you shoot somebody in the leg, first of all, when you're aiming at the leg, it's a much harder target to hit than dead center. Secondly, if you have the time to shoot somebody in the leg, you're probably not at a point where your life is being horrendously threatened. So I don't think that that's really an issue. But the bigger issue is that most people that get shot in the leg bleed out within like something like 10 minutes because you have arteries all over your legs. So it's not like you're less or more likely to kill somebody with a shot to the leg. Third, if the guy is right in your face, like let's say he's a yard away, getting your gun out and shooting is difficult in the first place. If the guy is 7 to 10 miles away and adrenaline is going and everything else, hitting somebody with a shot is not really something you can plan. It's not something you can aim for. It's not like you're putting your red dot on the guy's chest and going for it. So, I mean, cops are lucky if they hit their shots in the first place. I saw a statistic recently. The New York Police Department has the most stringent live fire training requirements, not live fire, I'm sorry, range fire training requirements of any police department in the country. I think they have to go every 6 months and they have to qualify in order to keep being a cop and to keep carrying. When they did a study on how often shots fired result in hitting a target, the New York City Police Department in actual situations hits their targets 17% of the time. So 83% of the time in real life situations they miss. So thinking that a person can just take out their gun, aim for somebody's leg, and hit it at 10, 15 yards is not only ridiculous, it's not only not going to happen, but at the same time, you're going to either kill or cripple the guy anyway. And you might not put him down. If the bullet just goes right through his leg, adrenaline might start pumping and he might not even realize he's hit. So I don't understand. I mean, obviously a lot of these things come out of ignorance. You know, so these are the questions that consistently get asked whenever some black guy pulls a gun on cops and causes some kind of problem. Other than that, I guess Shogun's still dealing with his personal things. Has anybody got any questions or comments that they want to put in? As I said, if you can, I'm really, really, really trying to raise $1,000 by the end of the week. So if you could see yourself donating, I'm putting the link in the stream now. Or if you have any questions that you want to ask, please don't hesitate to give to the show. It really does help out. Thirdly, Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed to the Supreme Court today. So here's the deal with Amy Coney Barrett. She's not a super right-wing judge. She's not based on most things. She's not even she's not really going to change all that much. And in fact, she's probably not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. She's probably not going to invalidate Obamacare. Like, these are all pipe dreams of kind of online people. But the one thing that we are going to see, and this is probably why the Dems are so upset in the first place, is we are going to see some good stuff on the Second Amendment. Because a judge like Barrett, who also already has a decent record on the Second Amendment, is not going to rule in favor of enhanced gun control and in favor of the state. These are things that we probably are going to win on. So there's a number of cases that are winding through the system right now. Out of California, Ninth Circuit, they just ruled that restricting magazine capacity is a direct violation of the Second Amendment, which is funny because in the third district out here in New Jersey, they ruled that it doesn't violate your constitutional principles. So because there's a discrepancy between the two courts, it's almost definitely going to go to the Supreme Court. Because a lot of times the Supreme Court can just shuck their responsibilities by just deferring to the lower court. They don't have to make like a rule that's going to last forever or a rule that's going to set precedent. But when two appellate courts hold completely disagreeing principles and legal principles on something, it's almost a guarantee that the Supreme Court will hear the case. So magazine capacity. Now, I don't really care so much about magazine capacity. If you look at it, I mean, a 10-round magazine, which takes me less than a second to change, it's not the worst restriction in the world. I don't favor any restrictions at all, but it's a good way to show the pulse of not only the country, but the pulse of what the Supreme Court is thinking about the Second Amendment. I'm really hoping that they'll hear a case about either reciprocity, which isn't a law, it's a principle. Trump wants to sign it into law, but As of now, no one has signed it into law. But I'd like to hear that if you have a driver's license in New Jersey, you can't be stopped from driving into Pennsylvania because you don't have a driver's license there. So if I have a concealed carry license in New Jersey, why shouldn't that be respected everywhere? I realize states have signed individual reciprocity agreements, but at the same time, states like New Jersey and California and New York and a couple others with these really strict gun laws, they argue that they don't restrict the ability to carry, they just have a very strict process. In reality, most people aren't able to carry in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California. But they're able to at least keep the facade that they allow it. But by not allowing reciprocity, they're basically saying that they don't believe that anyone actually deserves it or anyone should be able to get it. So I would really like to see this come before the Supreme Court. And I'd like to see it come before the Supreme Court as soon as possible. Now, obviously, these things take a while, but that's one gun rights issue that they can see. Secondly is all of the restrictions on assault rifles. Because while even most people acknowledge that the government has the ability to regulate what like, I mean, they found the NFA was constitutional. So they can regulate certain aspects of guns. But the arbitrary declination of an assault rifle has no basis in reality. So I would like to see them argue that one before the Supreme Court. It's very likely. Now, I don't think Biden's going to win. I actually don't think he has a prayer. But in the next 4 years, if Biden did win, or in the next 8 years, I mean, in 2024, when it's more than likely that a Democrat will win, this is going to be an issue that's going to come up really, really quickly, is the liability protection. The NFA was found unconstitutional in 1939. Yeah, but it was passed in the 80s and it was found fine. So when Reagan passed the amendments to it that restricted fully automatic. But if the Democrats get 2020, or if they win in 2024, here's going to be one of the really big issues, is the liability protections for gun manufacturers. As of right now, there's a specific law that stops this, but every other company, you can't sue Ford because you got into a car accident and somebody was driving a Ford, unless you can prove that Ford did something that encouraged the accident. That if they made a shoddy brake pad and they knew it was shoddy and they put it on anyway, then you can sue Ford. But just because somebody hit you driving a Ford doesn't mean that you can that you can sue Ford. So with the gun manufacturers, originally the left came out with this as an actual policy, as an actual platform issue. I think it was about 10 years ago, that they were going to use their connections with the legal industry to sue the gun manufacturers out of existence. That they were going to sue them over every single crime that was committed by one of their weapons. And so Congress passed a law saying that the gun manufacturers enjoyed the same rights as every other company, and that you couldn't sue them unless they manufactured their product with a defect. Now, Biden has openly said, it's on his website, it's in the Democratic platform, that he wants to overturn that law so that you can sue the manufacturers out of existence. Basically, his thinking, and he openly says this isn't something I'm inferring, his basic argument is that it's fine if you have the Second Amendment and anyone can buy and sell whatever guns they want, as long as you sue the manufacturers out of existence, then no one will be able to buy a gun. There won't be any person that would be crazy enough to go into the firearms manufacturing industry. So he'll just bankrupt that. If that's the case, that will come to the Supreme Court, and Amy Coney Barrett really helps in making sure that when it does come to the court, we'll be in a better position. I have got Brakir with $100. Thank you very, very much. Yahoo, bringing the math bag for you. Get me on the show again sometime. Yahoo. I didn't have anything to say. You're welcome on the show anytime. All you got to do is email me or message me on Discord and tell me when you want to come on, and we'll set it up. As long as I have that night available or the day available, I'm more than happy. I actually would love to talk to you about some philosophy things. So that could be quite interesting. So these are the things that this is also the reason why the Republicans have not gotten enough credit for the amount of justices that they've appointed to the different courts. I think they said that Trump has gotten more justices confirmed across the country than anybody except George Washington. And George Washington had to get them all staffed. And he's on pace to do more than George Washington. The idea of judicial appointments is something that solely rests on the Senate and the president. You don't need a unified Congress in order to appoint judges. So, not that I want to rely on judicial activism. It really shouldn't be that we have a system where the government just passes laws and we constantly watch the Supreme Court either sign off or overturn them based on arbitrary bullshit. But that's kind of where we're at right now. So, the idea that these people wouldn't, that Republicans aren't doing anything, this is a big thing that they are doing. And if Trump wins another term, as I expect that he will, there's a decent chance that there's, I think, 3 Supreme Court justices that are in their 80s. So there's a decent chance that even another one might come up. Welder guy, for $10. Any advice on how to get into reloading ammo? Okay, so this is a tough one for me. I reload my ammo. I know plenty of people that reload ammo. Let me break it down for you in totality, because Shogun still isn't here and I got a while to talk anyway. First off, reloading ammo, if you don't do it right, you can kill yourself, or you can kill someone around you, or you can, at the very least, destroy your weapons. And I don't care if you bought a gun that moment, like if you bought a gun, put a reload in it, and 5 minutes later it exploded, there's no warranty that's going to cover it being fixed. So even if you do escape unscathed, you're gonna lose your weapon at the very least if you don't do it right. Secondly, it does take a lot of practice to get it right. So yeah, you have to study up on it. You have to study up on what the powder charge should be, on how your equipment works. Now, there is a way to mitigate a lot of this. And that's that if you want to get into reloading, just to start, to mitigate some of these problems, if you buy a press, you can buy a magnetic weight adjuster, which means that it has magnets, and it doesn't have any, the laser ones are really expensive. And if you're going to spend the money on a laser system anyway, you might as well just buy the presses that have them built in. They run about between $6,000 and $10,000 for the ones that have them in them. But if you buy a magnetic, I forgot what they're called. My father just ordered one actually recently. But Shogun's here. But I'm going to keep going on this. But the issue is that when you're talking about such a small amount of powder that's used in the most commonly produced bullets, you're talking about, dude, turn your camera off. It's not like anyone can see you anyway, but I can see you, so you might want to turn your camera off. But, so there's that. Secondly, you have to get good at it. You have to work at it. You have to really be into it. Thirdly, at least for your first few thousand rounds as you're doing it, you shouldn't buy reload casings. You should just buy brand new casings. They're not so much more than if you buy reloaded casings. If you're reloading your own, then they're basically free because you already did it. But at the same time, if you're going to reload, you should buy new cases. You should have a decent press. You should read everything that there is about it, and you should make sure, like, even if you're using a press that does metered powder, everything, you should weigh it before and after on the first, like, let's say 100. You make the bullet first. You weigh the powder before it goes in. Then after it's done, take the bullet out. You could just use your press to pull it out and weigh it again. Make sure that you're getting the absolute right powder charge, because it happened to me. My wife, I had an over powder charge on a reload. She pulled the trigger, not only blew out the barrel of the gun, it blew out the ballistics glass on the side of the lane, and it ricocheted off that and hit her in the arm. She still has a scar from it. And that was just, we're talking about a difference between, I think, like 5.8 grains and 6.1 grains. So it's just something that don't assume that you can just pick it up, read a book, and do it. And there's a lot of room for trial and error, and that you could get better at it as you go. Like, you have to understand that you're doing so. It's like becoming like an amateur bomb maker. Like, you might get the first 10 right, but if you don't get the 11th one right, you're dead. Shogun, how you doing, man? You do not have a microphone that's working, it seems. Or if you do, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so Zoom for the phone is really annoying.
Yeah, I could have told you that.
I can't get the audio to go to my headset, which is, really pissing me off.
That's odd.
Okay, but hang on, let me step outside for a sec.
So Fishmail says that's the last time Halsey's wife let him reload her for her guns. No, she doesn't care. Like, I mean, she understood what happened, but at the same time, it was my mistake. Because, I mean, I manufacture all different rounds, but the majority that I build for myself that I reload have not traditionally been 9mm. I've only been reloading 9mm for the last maybe 2 years. So, and the powder charge on a 9mm bullet is minuscule. So, being off on 1 or 2 bullets is not something that is so outside the realm of outside the realm of possibility. So I'm just saying it's something. Why do you want to be a gunsmith? Surely you have enough ammo by now. It has nothing to do with making ammo. I'm fine at making ammo. And besides, if you're going to produce ammo to sell, unless you're talking about very specialty batch stuff, you have to buy a machine that takes care of it anyway. You could buy a machine that'll put out, I think, like 1,000 bullets every 5 minutes with absolute fail-safe laser measures, so that every bullet that's not 100% perfect will be rejected automatically. And I mean, you could spend like 10 grand on it. So I mean, those bullets, and not to mention the press manufacturers themselves guarantee that it's going to work, but your insurance will actually cover you if something like that happens. But it's better to not almost kill somebody or kill somebody than to say, oh, well, if I do, insurance will pay for it. But that being said, what you really want to do, if you're going to start making individual bullets, if you're going to start, like, you just want to make for yourself and you just want to produce them, buy like a Hornady lock and load and just start with 1 caliber, like maybe start with rifle rounds because they're a little bit easier in terms of powder charge and stuff like that. So start with that and don't just try to crank out rounds. Like, try to make sure that you're getting the process right 100% from the go, and make sure you test the ever-loving shit out of your bullets. Like, if you're putting out 100 a day, then make sure that like every 10 you take one, pull it apart, measure the powder, check the primer seating, check everything, make sure that everything is working just fine, and then you go forward from there. Shogun, what's up, man? I can't hear you again. You must be muted. There you go. Are you there?
Stupid thing.
Are you still using your phone?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but if you're using the stream itself to hear what's going on, then you're putting yourself in a scenario where you're going to be on a delay, so you're not going to hear what I'm saying to you until like 10 seconds after I say it.
Yeah, just the Zoom app for this phone is kind of garbage because I can't change the inputs and the outputs to use my headphones. Now, I was going to use my desktop, but one of my coworkers walked in and he sits right next to me. I wasn't expecting him to be there. So, yeah, I just wanted, just keep that between us.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
Pretty much the office is just pretty much empty here.
Yeah, but all it takes is one person over here. But I mean, you're in a decently state with good gun laws, so you could talk about guns. Just don't talk about shooting anybody with them. But for all those just joining us, I want to remind everybody I'm trying to raise $1,000 by the end of the week. My mom has the coof. She got COVID yesterday. She feels like dog shit, but her lung function is fine. So hopefully it's not going to be, a problem, God forbid. But my workshop is now off limits to me. So, because of my parents' house is now a quarantine zone for the next 2 weeks, and me and my father share a workshop over there. So now all of the gunsmithing classes I'm taking, I have to build a makeshift workstation here. And if I don't, I might have to withdraw from some of my classes just because I won't be able to do the work. So because I wouldn't be able to work on that kind of stuff outside of my house or my parents' house. So if you could, any donations really do help right now, and I'm trying to raise $1,000 by the end of the week. But let's see. Someone wrote, "Guns can last forever, Squirrel, but you need to keep up maintenance still if you're going to. You can. I mean, you can get guns that are 300 years old and they're still just fine as long as you take care of them. They're no problem. I mean, you might have to replace certain parts, but they'll last for basically forever unless you do something stupid. But at the same time, there are cheaper polymer guns that won't last forever because the percussive strength of it'll eventually fuck it up. So Shogun, if you can, why don't you tell everybody what you're going through with transferring guns? Because I've never had to do this before.
Okay, well, all right. Just making sure you can hear me now.
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, this app is killing me. It's, my goodness, how can something like this ever get released on the App Store? It's awful. But anyway, yes, I am quite pissed because either it's the TSA, the airline, or both has not been doing their due diligence when it comes to keeping track of bags. So I had a firearm in one of my bags, my other Glock 19. Right. And I get to my destination and the bag is not there. I had a feeling that was going to happen, but I should have just went with my gut instinct and not even bothered bringing the firearm, because I had more than just a firearm in there. I had some computer equipment. I had a Azure Connect, which is basically like $300 or $400. That thing is really expensive. I had a Surface tablet in there. I had a hard drive as well as a solid state drive in there with some of my life's work on it. And I am pissed. I know, well, I'm never going to fly that airline again, of course. And the other thing is that it's such a pain to get in touch with anyone who's competent there, let alone anyone like a breathing an actual person.
I hear you.
I finally I just now was able to get in touch with somebody that took my issue seriously because I told them there was a firearm in the bag. So they're trying to, expedite things and trying to figure out what's going on here. But let this be a lesson to you. If you ever have to travel with a firearm, make sure that you put a GPS tracker in the bag. Not just in the bag, but if you can put it in the gun also physically, do that. If you can put it in the butt stock or whatever, do that.
Also, I mean, you do have to worry about this. I mean, if they can't find it in a certain amount of time, like I would probably give it another day or two. But if they don't find it, you really should call at least the police and tell them what happened, because if somebody did steal it, like if one of the airline workers stole it or something and that gun gets used in a crime and you never reported it, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but this was the Polymer 80.
Well, you could find yourself in more trouble then,
Yeah, that's the thing, is that...
Well, I don't know. Polymer 80, they're legal in most states, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not legal in Washington. I was bringing it here because it's legal here in the state I'm in now.
I'm not sure what they could do about that, because it may be illegal in Washington, but it's not present in Washington right now. And even though you checked it in your baggage, they can't prove that it was in Washington. Like that you possessed it in Washington or that you built it.
That's in theory. It's not in that state. Because we don't know where it is. We don't know if it's in the state I'm in now, if it's in the state that the layover was in, or what.
Well, what's the state? What layover state was it?
Denver.
Colorado has decent gun laws. They're not completely lunatic yet. I mean, some of them suck, but I mean, I think you should be fine in terms of the legal aspect of it. But you don't have to call the cops in Washington State. I'm saying call the cops in whatever town you're in now, and let them know what happened. Because if it's documented that you let them know what's happened, if that gun gets used in the commission of a crime, you're covered. But if you just don't tell anybody and say, oh, well, the thing is whatever, then, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble, And, I mean, I don't know about what state you're in, but if when I go to the airport, where by me, the baggage people are probably the nastiest, grittiest ghetto rats that you'll ever see. So you want to be careful on that one,
So, I mean, the thing is, why would I call them and tell them if I can't even give them information that even links the weapon to me, aside from the fact that it was in my suitcase?
Because let's say you had something in the let's say your tablet, right? Let's say the I'll give you a scenario. The guy stole it. He's bringing your gun and the tablet to a pawn shop to sell it. Pawn shop guy tells him, "Oh, this is blah blah blah. I'm not going to give you anything," and the fucking guy shoots him, right? Your tablet's left there, and so is the gun. It links you now. And then if you say, oh, yes, that was my gun, but it got stolen, they'll say, did you ever report it stolen? Like, how do we know this was stolen? How do we know this wasn't you?
Yeah, I can see that, but at the same time, with a tablet, you can't, even if it is my tablet, I don't really use my real name on the thing. I mean, can you? Oh, well, technically, no. They technically can like break into it and see who it belonged to and see if there's any names on the thing used, and I guess that's possible.
It's just one of those things. I would actually like. I would seriously consider, just reporting it to someone. I mean, granted, you do have paperwork that it's reported stolen because you're dealing with baggage handlers. So you can say they lost it and look, here's the paperwork that it was stolen. But I guess it's one of those safe sorry things.
But when you have to report it stolen, don't you have to give them like the serial number and stuff?
Doesn't matter if it's not illegal in the state you're in. You could tell them it's a ghost gun.
Okay.
You could say I built it myself. It's an 80% polymer. It has no serial number.
Okay.
But at least it's there. I mean, everyone in the chat is saying it, and I've experienced it too. Like, I would never put something in it. Like, obviously, you have to check a gun because if you're not getting it on a plane, even if you did get it on a plane, you can go to prison for 20 years for that. But I would be very hesitant to put anything of value in my suitcase. I'd put it in the carry-on because
my carry-on bag was full.
Because they're awful, No, and I knew this was going to happen. Someone saying about pawn shops having security and all that. I was just giving a scenario. There's always a fucked up way that it could be traced back to you, even though you think that it can't. How about he just shoots somebody in a crime and drops it, and there's a fingerprint of Shogun's on it? I'm quite sure you haven't wiped it clean from fingerprints every single time you've touched it.
Well, no, nobody. I mean, how many people actually even think of that? I mean, I have considered that, yes, but I haven't, actually gotten around to wiping that thing down every time.
I hear you, but I'm just saying it's another scenario where it could help you. I got to jump off for a second, so keep up with the story.
Okay. Well, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot else for me to say. I mean, I'd engage the YouTube chat, but I can't see it. Well, for one, I don't have it pulled up. This thing is a piece of junk. I mean, I probably could pull it up. But yeah, I mean, there really isn't that much else to say about it. So, ... Okay, Lee Fuentes says, open a new PO box where you're moving to, and send the parts there individually to the PO box. Well, here's the problem with that. You can't open a PO box unless you're physically in that state already. That's the problem. Second, now I may have misread it, but you can't legally send a lower receiver because that counts as a gun, especially as a firearm. I mean, especially since the lower receiver is considered the firearm, you cannot legally send that unless you're sending that to an FFL. But if it has no serial on it, the FFL cannot legally accept it. Well, fish smell, my new job is just in another state. And the only reason why I actually considered taking the weapon on the plane is because I talked to an FFL dealer before, and they said that they've never had any problems. Other than that, I wouldn't have even bothered. And I'd love to tell you what my new job entails, but I do not want to dox myself because it's very, very specific. Halsey, you there?
I am back. I apologize for that. And yes, you shouldn't dox yourself. But
Yes.
here's the thing. Sending a lower receiver to yourself, right, or to a P.O. box, I don't know. I would have to look into it, but I don't think it's a problem because it's sending from you to you. It doesn't have to go to an FFL.
That's only a non-issue until it's a handgun.
I mean, when
That's what I meant to say.
when I blew up my CZ, I had to send that back to them, and they just sent me a FedEx label, and I just did it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
When I had to send my CZ in after it blew up, I mean, granted, I'm sure CZ themselves is an FFL; they have to be, but I mean, I just went to FedEx and sent it.
Well, yeah, if you're sending it to an FFL, that's different. Because I looked up the laws on this to be sure, so I didn't get in any trouble.
Huh? I've never thought of that, but you see, me personally, if I was moving, like even if I was moving from here to California, which God forbid I would ever have to do that, but if I was, I would probably still drive just because there's enough stuff that I have that I wouldn't want on a plane, or I would get a hand safe. You know, like I keep a couple of my better guns in hand safes anyway, so that even if they knew what was in it, they would have to take a 15-pound safe out of or steal a whole bag, and then they'd still have to drill into it to get it. You know.
Okay, and to answer Fishmel's question, like how are you transferring your stuff? Rent a U-Haul, drive your ass and your shit, unless you're material possession poor. Now, the reason why I flew, the two reasons. Well, one, this move was impromptu.
Mm-hmm.
I got a call saying that I got a job in XYZ state, and I had only a few weeks to get there. Now, I had next to no money because finances in my previous state really, really sucked. Getting jobs were hard to come by, and this particular state was very, very corona-tarded, which made things even worse. So I basically left out of here with a few $100s in my pocket, just so I can get to this job that not only pays me more money than I've ever made in that state, but is actually cheaper and a lot less corona-tarded. So there were many, many incentives for me to get out of that state. Oh, and plus this is a red state. So there you go. So I figured, what did I have to lose? So I packed what I could, did day labor, mostly night labor because it was nighttime construction. Now I stuck that out until the day of the move, and I just left. And that's basically how I moved. I mean, yes, I still have stuff at my old place. I'm still going to be paying rent there starting December because I can't take everything with me. I can't put everything in a storage unit because the storage unit that I have is too small. And plus, I didn't have any means of transporting everything there. Let's just put it this way. So far, I have things are going a lot better in this state in the first few days, minus this, and things have gone for years at a time at that state.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of like ways that like certain things you could get away with and whatever, but I would just personally think that if you're going from one state to another and the other state you're going to has fantastic gun laws and you have a place you're storing your stuff anyway, why not just pick up another gun while you're like, I mean, you're talking about, you know, a few $100s, if or even like you can get
well, the thing is, it's not getting another gun. That's kind of trivial to me. I mean, I guess I can get another one. I'm not worried about that. It's just that the other stuff that was in that suitcase that pisses me off the most. But the fact that it's a simple thing. The TSA, the airline, they had one job, and that was to put the suitcase on the plane along with the other one, and don't separate them. Is that so much to ask? And to answer Tasmanian Devil One's question, he said you should have rented a U-Haul. Now, Fishmail was saying the same thing, but like I was saying, I couldn't afford to drive across country with a U-Haul. Second, it would have taken me too long to get there. I wouldn't have even made it for the start date because I literally, well, let's just say it would have been thousands of miles for me to drive. It would have taken me, I mean, if I would have driven maybe 3 days straight, I would have made it there, but I would have to do that without sleeping.
Well, then you're gonna die. I mean, you can't go driving through mountains and shit, you know, for 3 days straight.
Exactly. I mean, and considering that, you know, things are starting to get cold up in those mountains. I mean, considering because the eastern part of the state that I left they're already talking about, you know, snowstorms and stuff like that. The following day that I was leaving, I couldn't just hop in a U-Haul and drive X amount of miles just to get here. It would have been, not only could I not afford it, but it would have been too dangerous. Second, there were certain states that I had to drive through that are not exactly quote unquote, well, no, I can't drop N-bombs on the street. I mean, on the stream. Let's just say they're not friendly to my kind. I mean, legit not friendly to my kind. And I don't want to take that kind of risk. So, I mean, and I don't blame them for the reasons, but still, I'm not taking that risk.
No, so I hear you, okay. But I'm just saying, like, for me personally, if it was a temporary situation anyway, right, and I knew that I could pick up a new piece there, I would just secure my old piece in a safe and just make sure I had something there for self-defense. Mm-hmm. You know, like, that probably would have worked out. Listen, truth be told, now that you've told them there was a firearms in it and shit, they'll probably wind up finding it, or they're going to look pretty heavily. If they can't find it, they're going to start looking at security tapes because they don't want the liability if one of their people stole it anyway. You know, because that could be also on them. If they had a employee that stole it and then used it in a crime, like they would probably find themselves on the receiving end of a lawsuit also. You know,
and that would be awesome. But to answer Fishmill's question, what he's saying that's a myth. Actually, no. Now, yes. Now, granted, this was like almost 30 years ago. Now, I went to a campsite with my family. I think it was back in 91, 92, one of the two. I mean, who knows? Maybe things might have changed. I don't know. But we went to this campground in the mountains, and this was going way out east somewhere. I don't know exactly where it was. You know, a family friend of ours just told us where it was, and we thought it was neat at first. But my mom and dad, they went out on a hike, you know, to just explore the area, and they saw all this huge group of people. They had their Confederate flags, and they looked very clannish. I mean, I don't think maybe they didn't see any Klan robes, but At the time, the state was known for having some people that just wanted to get away from other ethnicities and, proclaim certain areas for the quote unquote right brotherhood and keep it Aryan and so forth. So it's not exactly a myth. I was almost confronted by it. We could have been hanging from a tree. Fortunately, they didn't see us, but we just got out of there. We didn't want
let's not be overly dramatic, though, Shogun. The last lynching in this country was like in the 60s. So, that doesn't still happen. I'm not minimizing what you're saying. All you need is one asshole cop, because you either tell him you've got a gun in the trunk and then he has an excuse to fuck with you, or you don't tell him, he fucks with you anyway and finds it, and then you're in deep shit. Because he's going to say, why didn't you tell me you have a gun in the car? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not questioning your thinking. Everybody reacts differently to different situations, and a lot of times, like you said, this wasn't something you planned out. It wasn't like you had months to prepare for it and all of that. But in the future, if you have a place, if I was going somewhere for, let's say, 2 months, right? Even if I knew that I could get away with it, I would probably still just, if it was a good gun state, I would pick up something while I was there just for self-defense, or I would make sure I had the time to drive, and you obviously couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, you can get a decent piece without having to worry about Washington standards, probably for a much better price.
Right. I look around here and there, but the thing is that I need a license in this state with a current address in order to even qualify to purchase anything in this state.
Yeah, but
now I don't.
I know. I'm pretty sure I know where you are, and is that hard? It shouldn't be.
Well, no, it's not that it's hard. It's just that I don't have an address. I can't use a PO box either. I can't use the Airbnb because I don't live there. And I even talked to the guy at the Airbnb, and he said he doesn't want people using his address because he doesn't know me personally, which I can respect.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure your state even accepts out-of-state licensing.
Now, I called an FFL, and I was told that I need a license or a state ID in this particular state.
Oh,
I'd love to tell you exactly what state it is, but no,
obviously I already know what it is. So, but yeah. I'm just saying that. Also there's reciprocity. I don't know. Here, talk for a minute.
Okay. So let's assume that you know what state it is. Now, if you know what state it is, I don't really care because I trust you. The thing is that you never know who's listening, of course. Now, I'm just telling you what the FFL told me. Now, if the FFL is wrong, then it makes me wonder what else he might have been wrong about.
You should definitely find out, but I'm just looking up who Washington State has reciprocity with. Because I know there are a few states that have, reciprocity with everybody. 31 states I think is the most.
Well, you have a point. It's just that last I checked, very few states have reciprocity with mine.
No one has it with mine, versa. So I know that. Shit.
That sucks, but
you know what though? Who knows how long you're going to actually wind up? Because I know you're on a contract right now, but who knows if that contract gets extended or whatever. But are you allowed to use a PO box as a permanent address or no?
I was told no.
This doesn't dox you. How long are you there for?
Now, I am supposed to be here for 6 months.
Right.
Now, that could be cut short. It could be extended, or I could be given a full-time opportunity.
So, just go change your driver's license over to the Airbnb.
Like I said before, I can't do that because the person who owns the Airbnb is not going to allow it.
How does he know? How will he ever know?
Well, if I start getting mail and stuff like that directed to his place, then there you go.
You're not allowed to get mail there?
No, he said he doesn't want my mail coming there. I mean, unless it's my bag that I lost at the airport, he said that's fine.
But I'm saying he expects you to stay there for 6 months with no mail.
Well, I'm not staying there for 6 months. I'm initially planning to just like rent an apartment or something like that. I mean, apartments down here are actually a lot cheaper than where I just came from.
I'm sure. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm sure you. It's just weird that he says you can't get any mail there. I mean, I don't know how long your contract is there, whatever. But even still, just when you do get an apartment, which will probably be shortly, you'll immediately have to change your driver's license over anyway by law. So I think they only give you 6 months.
Okay. Well, because I'm not going to be staying there the entire 6 months. I'm actually planning on not being there even a month because I want to get my initial plan is to find a place within the 3 weeks. So my first payday is going to be mid next month. It's going to be more than enough to. I mean, as much as I don't want to say like rent a room in a house, because frankly, I don't want to do that again because I need some room to myself. I need some time to myself. But no, I mean, because even by the Airbnb, there's somebody advertising a room in this like quadruplex. I mean, I don't know if it's like a studio or if it's shared or what. I have to call him and ask him. But for $550 a month, that is a fraction of what most people would pay where I live.
For a room for rent?
It says room for rent, but it appears to be a room that's just sectioned off of everything because you know how you see these houses that have like 4 doors, like each one is like its own apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I meant to call about that. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. So yeah,
I mean, $550 a month for like the equivalent of a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment isn't bad. But just to rent just to rent a room in somebody else's house, like, I mean, that wouldn't be that wouldn't, you could get that here. Like, you could in New Jersey where everything is ridiculously expensive. You could get a room for $550. You can definitely. I mean, I don't know what town you're in or whatever, but $550 sounds like a lot, especially right now where everybody's hurting.
Well, are you saying that? Are you talking about a room or are you talking about a studio apartment where you're by yourself? Because it appears that I would be by myself in a place like this, given that there's like separate entry for every room.
I mean, around where I live, which is right outside New York City, right? I'm about 10 miles from New York City. Okay, you can find a studio apartment, meaning it's one room it's just one room with a bathroom. There's no like separate bedroom or kitchen or anything like that. It's just one room with everything in it and the bathroom. You can find them for $600-700 around here easily.
Okay, well,
and this is, as I said, this is one of the most expensive real estate states and taxes and everything. By taxes, it is the most expensive, but
where I came from, it hasn't been that way since like 2010. Because there was a time where you could get a studio apartment for $600 and everything was fantastic. Well, now that same studio apartment will cost you double, sometimes triple that, depending on how far you are away from a major city or major metropolitan area.
I mean, I would also the whole thing about, and this we'll relate this back to gun laws, okay? But it applies to a lot of other things too. Okay. If you rent a room from somebody, meaning it's their house and you're just renting a room, right? You have common areas where you share bathrooms and you share kitchen or living rooms and stuff like that, but that bedroom is yours. I think there are, I mean, and again, it's state by state, but there are issues where you might have to tell the person that you plan on having a gun in the house. Just because they could have kids, and who knows if you leave the door unlocked or something. Like, there's always stuff like that can come up. Plus things about insurance. If you get renter's insurance, that things can come up if you don't disclose them. And I mean, God forbid someone breaks in the house and you kill them. Like, you could get them sued. Like, there's a lot of issues that come up with renting a room and what level of privacy you're actually allowed, because you're not considered like like you don't have renter's rights if you rent a room. It's not considered that they rented you in like an apartment. You know,
Yeah.
In order to rent you an apartment, well, I'm just going to go by the standard here, but I'm pretty sure it's very similar in most states. In order for them to rent you, like for you to be considered like renting a domicile or an apartment, it has to have, I believe, a closet, a kitchen, and a bathroom. Bathroom you might be able to make communal, but you know, like it has to have those attributes. If not, you're considered that like it's like you're staying at like a hotel. You know, like you have the right to what you paid for, but nothing more. So if at the end of the month they want to throw you out, there's no protection.
Yeah. Although at an Airbnb, for as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really considered a quote unquote tenant. Also, to be frank about where I'm staying, I'm not even renting a room. I'm basically just sleeping on a couch for $19 a night.
$19 a night?
Yes.
I don't know, Shogun, man. Look, I'm assuming that you're a smart guy because I've spoken to you and you don't seem like an idiot to me. But I think that you need to do more work when you're like looking. I know this was an impromptu thing and I know you didn't have a lot of time, but you seem to be getting ripped off like quite a bit. Like, well, I mean, think about it. You're paying $19 a day, so you're talking about like $110 a week, right? So $440 a month to sleep on somebody's couch.
But I'm not sleeping on somebody's couch for a month. This is only going to be for a few weeks. You see, the reason I did this is because
you had to.
There was no other place that I could stay.
No, you had to. The only other thing you could do is a hotel.
A hotel would have been more expensive.
Mm-hmm. Now, they also probably would have required you to pay it all up front.
Yeah, that too. And considering that I didn't have enough to put on a down payment on a room, I didn't have all that at once. I was working at and saving that up week by week, making like $16 an hour doing construction. That's not a whole lot. I mean, plus I still have to worry about transportation, eating, and so forth, so I can actually live, to see that day when I moved. So I actually thought about this, and this was the best strategy I could come up with at the time. Yes, things were impromptu, and maybe some things I could have done a little differently, but this was the absolute best thing that I could come up with. And even now, I couldn't have thought of a better solution. At least considering that I didn't know there was a better solution. Right.
Old dirty bastard for $10. Hope your mom gets better quick. I do appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. But look, and I understand. You probably did. I don't know if you know anybody there or anything like that, but I mean, for me personally, I would have probably just stayed. Like, I would have went a couple days early, maybe, and stayed at a hotel for a day or two, and then just went crazy looking for a place to crash. Like a lot of people will. In New Jersey, it gets a bit tricky, but there are ways you could do it. Like, a lot of people are worried that if you say, look, I want to rent, here's the first month's rent, but I need another week to pay the security deposit till I get my paycheck or something like that. Like, most people are cool like that. Andy Martin for $10 doesn't say anything, but I do agree. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. It really does help. So if you stay at a hotel for like 2 days and you go see a place and they want to rent to you, you could say, like, look, I just got to the area. I just moved here. Here's the first month's rent. I'm not playing around. And you could even put it in the contract that if I don't give you the security deposit by X day, that you can chuck me out. But most people are pretty okay with stuff like that.
Well, in my experience, most people are not okay like that. I mean, because at least where I come from, when it comes to rent, people are very cutthroat. If you don't have my money by XYZ day, just get out. I don't care if it's the dead of winter. Go F yourself.
Well, I don't know. But in New Jersey, you can't do that. So maybe that's not why they're like that. But the only time that you'll have people that are totally unflexible are if they're like leasing companies. Like if they own 10,000 apartments and you're just a corporate to them,
Yeah. Well, in New Jersey, yeah, they have certain safeguards. Now, as far as the state that I just left, I did not see any safeguards of those kind. I mean, yes, there are like tenants' rights and so forth, I mean, there are some people that will give you like a 30-day pay or vacate. Some people will just give you 10 days. It really varies. I mean, with a private landlord, I got 30 days. With a rental agency, I got 10. So yeah, basically nobody cared up there. So I just don't expect that type of hospitality anywhere that I go. I know I'm in the deep, dirty South, and they say Southern hospitality is a thing. And it probably is. That probably may have worked. But the thing is, I wasn't willing to roll the dice on that because I'm used to getting screwed over all the time.
So you know what you should have done?
There's a reason why I say I trust nobody.
What you should have done, and this is what we're going to do. First, Jeremy Honeycutt for $10. Sup, Nibba. Hope your mom gets better soon. I do appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. First, I'm going to tell you what you should have done. And then I'm going to tell you a story about renters' rights here in New Jersey and what happened to me. That's going to make you really laugh. And then we got to go because I got to go. I'm so fucked over like this week. My wife. Do you remember last year when my wife's father died? I was in the middle of a stream when it happened. So I was like, sorry guys, got to go. Like major emergency. But so they did like the unveiling of his tombstone this weekend, where everybody gets together and they go like watch the unveiling and all of that. So she left for Chicago last Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a quarantine state, and we knew that, which was fine because the only rule when she comes back is she has to quarantine, meaning she has to basically stay here, or like she can go to like the doctor or the food store, but she absolutely can't go to school to drop off or pick up the kids. Okay, but we knew that, so I just figured my mom would help me, and she left for Chicago. And then Friday is when my mom was diagnosed with COVID. So now my father is quarantining, my mother's quarantining, I can't go to my workshop, so I can't do my schoolwork because my workshop's at my father's house. My wife is quarantining, and I still have to figure out a way to work, stream, do school, and drive my kids to and from school because no one else can drive them or pick them up. Everybody's fucking quarantined, except me.
Huh.
So that's one of the main reasons I have to build this workshop by the end of the week. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to keep up with my schoolwork because a lot of the stuff, if I'm doing because I have to do it on camera. So if I'm doing it on like what's considered like an unsafe workspace, then they'll just tell me to turn it off, and I don't have a designated workspace here. Like I only have my other stuff. I'll start an OnlyFans. Y'all want to see my sexy ass on fucking camera, but this Shogun, this is what you should have done, right? Is you should have found a place that you wanted to be, right? Man lighting for $5. Stream on, gentlemen. Thank you. Is you should have walked in with like a Black Lives Matter shirt on and like filled out all the paperwork and then told the guy like your scenario. And if he said like, no, I'm not going to do it, you should have been like, this is motherfucking discrimination. Call like the police. Call the news cameras, everybody, like made a big, you probably could have gotten your shit for free for the next 6 months.
Well, considering that this is a red state and this is the deep, dirty South, I didn't believe that was going to fly here. I mean, if I was moving to Colorado, definitely. Or moving to Denver in particular, oh yeah, I definitely would have pulled that off.
Okay, and now I'm going to tell you about my story. Real quick though, someone says, "Are you going to stream Election Day?" I did last year. Last year I streamed with Dustin. We literally streamed for 12 hours on fucking Election Day. It was tough. It was a lot of fun, but that was in 2018. I'm sorry for the midterms. But number one, I have a feeling that it's going to be a very stressful day because it's going to be just crazy. Secondly, I don't think we're going to have any idea who won on election unless Trump landslides. And I mean really landslides. I don't think we're going to know who won anyway. But you know what? I'll put some feelers out there and see who wants to. Maybe what I'll start doing is I'll start streaming at 8 o'clock Eastern, because that's when the polls close here on the East Coast, and just keep going until we have an idea. I just don't want to get myself in a scenario where I'm streaming for 5 or 6 hours and we're just sitting there going, yep, still too close to call. Yep, still close to call. But we'll see. I mean, if I can get a crew together, like maybe if TFM and Shogun and everybody want to come together, maybe we'll do it on all our channels. But I have to see what's up. I haven't planned to do it yet. Let's just put it that way. But so check this out, Shogun. This is a fucking great story, right? when I got back from Israel, my mom had rented us a place. Like, she found the place because we weren't here to go look at it, right? She rented us a house. And it was from one of the guys in the Jewish community in the town that I used to live in. The one that I got in trouble for being too right-wing and whatever. So I can't prove it. But basically the guy just shows up to my house one day, the landlord, and he sticks a note in our mailbox that says, I'm selling the place. I need you out in 90 days. Because I don't want to have to show people the house with tenants here. So, okay, like, listen, it sucks, but we'll find a new place. Well, at the time, we couldn't find a place anywhere. Like, there was just nothing big enough for us to rent anywhere in the area. So we were freaking out. And then, like, 2 weeks before the 90 days were up, I went to the guy. I said, look, we're looking for a new place. We have a couple leads, but nothing solid yet. Like, I just need an extra couple weeks. And the guy basically told me to go fuck myself and that he'll throw my shit out on the street if we're not out in 2 weeks. Right? So I did what any other good Jew would do. I called my lawyer. Because, I mean, I wasn't calling him because I wanted to sue the guy. I was calling him to ask what happens if the guy shows up to throw my stuff out in the street and I shoot him in the face. You know, like, because you can't just go into somebody's house and throw their shit out. That's in basically any state. You need a sheriff to do it. Right? But so I also wanted to ask, like, look, what are my rights at this point? Because obviously if I just don't leave when I'm supposed to, he can go to court and start an eviction process. But that doesn't happen, like, in a weekend. You know, it's like any other court case. It takes time. So I wanted to find out what's going on. So I'm looking over the laws myself, and I'm like, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right here because I don't think he can throw me out, even though we were on a month-to-month lease, right? So I called the lawyer, and I was like, look, here's the scenario, and I laid out every possibility, like, of what was going on. And he goes, oh yeah, he can't throw you out. He said, protection laws in New Jersey are ridiculous. There is no such thing as a month-to-month contract. Basically, there are 9 reasons they can throw you out of a place, and if you don't violate those 9 reasons, they can't throw you out, as long as you're paying rent. Right? So I was like, oh, good. So can you write a letter, please, telling this guy to go fuck himself and tell him we're not going anywhere, and we'll leave when we feel like it. Right? So he writes the letter, he sends it to the guy. The guy gets his lawyer to write back to us saying, that's not true. You have to get out, like, next week. And we sent him one back saying, go fuck yourself yet again. And so then he basically started like I mean, I think he watched too much TV or something, because he started doing one of those things where he's like, well, the lease says that I can inspect anytime. So he started showing up all the time, like wanting to inspect. Like he would show up like twice in 3 days. Like, oh, I'm going to do a walkthrough. And I guess there's a special law in New Jersey that if you try to harass somebody into leaving when you're not allowed to throw them out, then whatever judgment gets turned in against you for doing it, they multiply by 10. So, like, he was really fucking up bad. And so finally he comes to me, and I found out he was in like also in some financial trouble, and he really wanted to sell the house. So we sat down with him and we were like, okay, look, what's your deal? He says, I understand I can't throw you out at this point. Like, I checked, my lawyer looked into the laws, like, I'm totally fucked. I need you out by September 1st of that year. And we're like, well, that's 4 weeks away or 5 weeks away. And he's like, and we're like, so what are you going to give us in return? You know, whatever. So I left the room, and my lawyer and his lawyer negotiated. And the guy agreed that he would let us stay there for 3 months. So the 5 weeks we had, plus the previous 7 weeks, rent free. So he gave us back the rent that we'd already paid, and we didn't have to pay rent for the next 5 weeks. He gave us back our security deposit that day so that he couldn't try to hold it hostage after we left. And he had to give us $5,000 for moving expenses. So between all the rent, the security deposit, and the $5,000 he gave us, I just went and put a down payment on a house.
Oh yeah, I believe I remember you telling Seth's story.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm glad that happened. I mean, worked out in your favor. But of course, you got to remember one thing: I'm a jogger. I can't afford a lawyer, at least not yet.
Oh, dude,
I mean, in coming weeks I will. But yeah, you know the idea.
I'm just saying, like, I'm sure the situation, like, look, right now, if you're crashing on somebody's couch, whatever, you're fine. But I would imagine that you can pull something off in, you know, the next few weeks that'll get you more settled and more okay. You know? Mm-hmm. But guys, I got to run. I got to go pick up the kids at school soon, and I got a couple other things I got to do. Shogun, man, this was a lot of fun. And I love that we keep talking about these kind of, like, things that don't, you know, like, get talked about a lot, like traveling with weapons and stuff like that. Like, this is fun, you know?
So I really hope that my experience helps somebody out there, like, even if it's at my misfortune.
Lee Fuentes says, have your dad quarantine the workshop in the garage for 4 days. First of all, I'm talking about a workbench that's connected to the wall. So he would have to unconnect it and put it in the garage. Secondly, my father's 80. He can't carry the heavy stuff. I would take most of the tools, like the drill press and the vices and stuff like that. I would just tell him to leave them on the front porch, and I would just come pick them up. You're allowed to do that. It's not against quarantine. But he can't bring all that stuff down. He could hurt himself. That's all I need. Put my father in the hospital. My mother's home quarantining with corona. My wife's home quarantining with corona. And I'm like, yay, at least I got a drill press out of the house. Like, not going to work. But guys, I do really appreciate the donations. It really is going to help me out. Shogun, really fucking get your shit together and be happier, man. Because you'll be a lot happier not having to worry about these fucking idiot people. You know?
Yes. That's the plan. I'm doing my best to get things back together. But you know how it is when you try to rise back up, life just kicks you in the chest and knocks you back down.
I know that because that's all I've had for the last year. But yeah, we keep doing it, man. This is why when the collapse comes, we're going to be able to fucking survive. You know?
Right on.
So this is how we're going to persevere. But guys, thank you very much for coming. I think I'll be back tonight. I think I'm doing a show tonight. I'm waiting on a confirmation from a guest. But thanks very much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do. So help me God. Thank you, and good night.